Good evening for being here and for joining Irvine Valley College Real Estate. My name is Rick Boone. I teach some of the real estate classes, and I'm the only full timer at IVC. So, kind of by default, I'm the chair of the department. And so, I've tried to build a great program, a very purposeful program for you. Some of you that are just starting in the program now. And I'm grateful to be at IVC. I have a ton of great colleagues, and we have great student support at the college. And so you're at a good place. I'll just start off with that. My goals tonight. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about me, kind of let you know where I'm coming from, and not to like on the back, but just so you kind of have an idea of the perspective I'm bringing to the table. I want to cover Canvas tonight and make sure that it's very clear to you what you need to get done this week. It's already Wednesday. And also kind of where everything is, what's expected of you, and how the class is going to work for the next 8 weeks. And then third, we're going to look at the syllabus, and I'm going to make sure that it's very clear for you how to succeed in this class. Some of you, are like, I need to get an A in this class. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Maybe you're just be happy to pass and get credit for the Department of Real Estate, and that's fine too. I'll show you exactly what those points look like and what the assignments look like, and what you can do to earn that. Um, I kind of I have a realistic uh, bar. I don't want to say low bar. So I first took my real estate principles class at Orange Coast College. It was an in-person class at the time at night, and I came in there with a purpose. I wanted to be able to learn how to sell investment property and how to invest in investment property. At the time, Rich Dad Poor Dad book had been recently out. My brother-in-law gave me a copy of the cassette tapes. Don't laugh at me. Um, and so I had listened through some of those and went in like, hey, I want to learn how to do this investment thing. And my teacher told me like, sorry, you're gonna have to sell single family homes. And I said, well, I don't really want to do that. I want to invest. I want to learn how the investment market works so I can invest in property myself. And he said, well, you're going to fail. And I was like, that can't be right. Here, let me take you out and buy you a beer. No kidding. I met the guy at a bar and I bought him a beer. And I was like, all right, like brass tacks. How do I do this? Like he held the answers for me, right? In that moment. How does this work? He's like, you have to sell single family homes to make money in this industry. And so at that point, I was pretty deflated. And I got a D in his class. So there's my low bar. D's get degrees. No, D's don't usually get degrees, but they do give you Department of Real Estate credit. And so if your goal is to just get through this class to get credit for the DRE, again, I'll show you what that looks like tonight for those points. During my full time work, so I did end up getting my license 2002, I think it was, and worked 9 years full time in real estate, specializing in apartment sales. I was able to find a friend of a friend to sit really close to, listen to every phone call he had. Ended up partnering with him for a few years, and had some amazing years and had some really sad years. So just like being self-employed in any other industry, there's ups and downs. This is a business, right? This is not just get a license, go sell a house, make $1 million. That can happen. But at the end of the day, it's business, right? So you have to build a business. During that time in real estate, I realized I didn't know how to do business. I hadn't studied business in college or anything. And so decided to go back to pursue a master's in business. So I was able to get my MBA, taking night classes while I was working during the day. And the other piece of that was that I'd always kind of wanted to teach in some way. And so that did allow me to kind of open some doors for teaching. So I was teaching at nights as well. And discovered that that was just much more fulfilling for me than day in and day out sales. And so I still do have my license. I haven't represented somebody else for probably a decade. Um, but I do try to stay active in the industry for myself and my family. And then I do some consulting in real estate too with like contract stuff. And more recently, some projects that involved kind of subdevelopment, if you want to call it that, but commercial spaces that are chopped up into smaller place spaces. Some of those might look like food halls or smaller retail stores. And some construction. I like to kind of get my hands dirty, and so I've done some construction as well for myself, not for other people. So I'm coming from industry. I'm coming from full time sales experience. I'm coming from niche markets of the industry that are not typical, and you might not know of. And those experiences for me allowed me to see a lot of creative things. Some people they use the word creative, they say creative, and that means illegal. I'm not talking about illegal things, but creative, like outside of the box thinking. And so that part of real estate still interests me, the problem solving part. And so I still do try to stay involved in ways in that way. But um, real estate full time during the days, went into my master's program at nights, had the opportunity to start teaching at nights. So that was a super crazy busy time. But that's when I made that flip. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do higher education more than I want to do full time real estate. Worked for a 4-year university for 4 years. During that time, earned a doctorate degree as well, and then was able to get my full time teaching job here at IVC, which has been amazing. It's been awesome. That's a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. And so, in my classes in the program, I've tried to build purposefulness. Is that a word? I want you to be learning the stuff that you have to get through for the state, right? You have to get through the theory, you have to get through the law. A lot of times it's kind of like a hoop to jump through. I mean, it's useful information, but it's so much information. There's no way to memorize it all. Um, the state largely in any state licensure, whether you're talking about real estate or construction licensing or I mean, any of the licensing that the state offers, right? They're really mostly concerned about protecting the public and making sure that if you're going to have that license, that you know to not, defraud the public. And so that's really what these classes are kind of based on to meet those standards. And we have some of the elective classes that you can take: economics, real estate economics, finance, appraisal, property management, all those other electives too. And so even in these foundational classes like principles and legal aspects, I try to sprinkle in as much practical, useful knowledge as I can. And so as we go through the classes, and you're reading the chapter information and the concepts and the theories and the definitions, the foundational pieces in those chapters, I try to give some more real life perspective in the video lectures that are in the module. I'll show you where all that stuff is. But that's the other thing, coming out of my experience that I want to give to you. Like, there's no one way to do this industry. So long as it's legal, this industry really thrives on creativity. And yeah, there's business there and you have to do business. And if the sales part doesn't attract you much, or maybe the business part doesn't sound exciting, or maybe you don't like sales and you're like, how am I going to live in this industry? There are a ton of different niche markets in this industry that need good workers. I feel like every industry can always use a good worker, or a solid business that's doing a good job. So the opposite of what my teacher told me in principles is that you have to sell homes or you're going to fail. I feel like you can figure out, so long as it's legal, a million different things to do in this industry to make money. So I want to encourage you in that. And I also really like to encourage my students, find something that you enjoy, because at the end of the day, I've seen people make lots and lots of money, but they're not really happy. And if you're not doing something that's fulfilling for you, making money in and of itself for most people isn't really that much of a motivation. Like, that only lasts so long before you kind of burn out. So find one of those niche markets. If you do enter this industry, find one of those niches that you're like, oh, you're excited about it, right? There's purpose behind it. Um, and hopefully, that'll lead to a long, successful career for you. All right. So that's a little bit again about me, where I'm coming from. I'm going to do a little shared screen here. I don't know how to say that properly, but I'll bring up our Canvas shell. And again, whether you're in principles or your legal aspects, these will look very, very similar in their layout. They will also look very, very simple. That doesn't necessarily mean they're easy. I'll show you. So here's Canvas. We will be using two systems in these classes. One is this system called Canvas. This is the IVC learning environment, learning management system that we use. This is where all the grading will be. You'll be turning in assignments in here. You can communicate with me through this system. There's like an inbox mail system, or you can just email me directly, and that's great too. So this is Canvas. This is one system. The second system is going to be like our book, and I'll show you that in a little while here. But so this, getting into here is super important. especially in this first week, I need to see in this system in Canvas that you're attending, that you've showed up to class. I'm actually required by law to drop anybody that doesn't show up. So if you haven't done so already, please do get into Canvas. And you should have seen those links. I've sent out emails to you. You should have seen those emails while you're here. So that's a good sign. Get in there and make sure this week that you've clicked on some stuff, and there's an assignment this week too with your discussion board. Here's our homepage. This is kind of just where you land, an overview of the announcements that have gone out. A couple of static links. I just realized too that in this class, for some reason, this link isn't working. Here is our book website that we're going to be using. Instead of using a hard copy book, I use a virtual version of a hard copy book in the system. And the system also allows you to access that information on your computer, your tablet, your phone, whatever tech you have. You can get that and see it and read it. There will also be quizzes, and the final exam will be in the system. So here's that link here. I'll show you before our hour is up here to let you know what that looks like. The syllabus, we'll look again at that tonight as well. So I'll show you what that looks like. And again, either class, very, very similar setup. Office hours, if you want to talk face to face with me, I'm on campus Tuesdays from 1 to 3 in my office. I'm also on Zoom from 10 to 1 on Wednesdays. I have a lot of students that are very busy. And so if these times don't work for you, and that's totally fine, please do email me. I kind of carry over my experiences of being self-employed kind of into my teaching. So I'm usually checking email quite frequently. And so if you email me, that's going to be the fastest way to reach me. And if you want to have a conversation, that's fine too. We can set up an appointment and figure out what time works for both of us to chat. If you prefer to see the information this way, maybe it will be overwhelming for you to see, but you'll see the summary of the course. This is our whole 8 weeks worth of assignments all in one place. Don't let it freak you out, but it's here. That's just an automatic thing. If you wanted to, you could come back to the announcements and view previous announcements or links. I send out announcements in the week one. It's a little bit crazy. I've already sent you a couple this week. Typically, I'm just sending them out on Mondays or when something comes up or it might be urgent or something like that, rarely. And so announcements typically outside of the first week are coming just once a week. And I do give you kind of a reminder, hey, here's what you're working on this week. Here's what's due this week. Just as a regular kind of contact to make sure that you're staying on track with what's going on. Our main place, you see this menu over here to the left, super, super simple, right? I wanted to make it super easy for you. Here's one place that you can go to find your info, and it's in that modules tab. Of course, there's the grade book. You can check on your grades and that kind of thing, but here's where all of our links and content, the meat is. I developed a couple years ago an orientation for all students for the department. And so here's just a couple useful links and helpful information. Maybe this is your first class ever in college. Maybe this is your first class in college in 10 years. Maybe you're a full-time student at IBC, right? I have like sometimes 17-year-old, 16-year-old high school students in my class, and I'll have like a 70-year-old in my class, and everybody's learning together, right? So wherever you're coming from, these links will hopefully kind of bring us all to the same place and to kind of give you an idea of what how the system works, what resources are available for you, both at IDC and within our real estate department. Just some helpful links like about licensing. And these videos are only like a couple minutes long. So it looks like there's a lot of them, but they're not very long. And I do have a quiz here at the end of this orientation just to make sure that you kind of grasp some of these concepts and are clear on what the expectations are for you in the class. I want you to succeed. So this kind of helps, again, bring us all to the same page. I also I'm hoping that you have a great experience in the class and learn a lot too, right? Like I hope you leave this class and you're like, oh man, Rick, he was my favorite teacher ever, the best teacher I ever had. I want you to have that good experience. And so I feel like this kind of brings us all to the same page coming into the class. This kind of quiz for the assessment on the orientation, I do give you some points for that. It doesn't take you very long. You also have multiple attempts at this quiz. So there you go. But if you can get that done this week, that'd be great. Here's our week one, and you'll see pretty consistently moving out week 1, week 2, we'll scroll through here. This system, GRL, again, it's called Great River Learning. GRL is the virtual book system that we use for this textbook, either both principles and legal aspects. And so once you click on here, and I wonder if you can, here's the link. You'll see click purchase. It might have moved. The button might have moved actually, but I'll show you real quick. It's not hard. I know a couple of you have your cameras on. Can you nod if you can see the Great River page? Awesome. Thank you. So you'll have some, if you've never been on this website page before, right down here at the bottom left, not the bottom right, you'll see that purchase button. That brings you to kind of a university lookup for Vine Valley College. And then you'll see real estate law or legal aspects of real estate. That's the book there, or real estate principles. So if you click on real estate law, there's only going to be one section available. That's all we have right now for this semester. If you click on principles, you'll see 2 different sections, and just note which date you're in. I'm teaching both sections, but here's our first 8-week class here, both this semester. Click on there, and then basically you're buying like any other kind of website purchase. If you're going to be buying the book like cash, credit card, from your own pocket, I do suggest buying it from this link. It's going to be the quickest, fastest way for you to get access. If you have a credit at the IVC bookstore, whether you're in the room or maybe watching this recording, they do have kind of an access code that you can buy through the bookstore. But just a heads up, this semester, spring 2025, we have a new bookstore vendor. And so there's some transitioning going on between the companies. I hope, and our college tries to do this well. I hope there's no inconvenience there for you. But I don't know what to expect with the new company. I'm sure they're going to be great, but I don't know what they have like in hand there. They're in like a temporary classroom right now. All that said, if you do have that bookstore credit though at the campus, you should be able to get access for this. And what you would do there when you come through this, I think it's on the next page after you enter your information. You click next to pay. I believe there's a code, a spot there for like a coupon code, and you would use the code that you would buy from the bookstore at that point. So hopefully that's clear for you. Not too difficult to find the information that we'll be using as our book. If you want to hold a hard copy book, of course you can go buy one. But this online system is much more accessible. It's a little bit cheaper. And then again, you can look it up on any device. Also has the state approved content in there, the quizzes and the state approved final exam in there. So this is what we will be using. There it goes for our book this class. Let me go back into Canvas over here and back to our modules tab, just so I'm consistent with you on where we're going. Here's our week 1. There was that link we just used for the GRL login. Discussion board. We have a discussion board every week except for the last week. In the discussion boards, I see this as, us standing in class, I'm giving a lecture, and at break or at the end of class or before class, you're having a conversation with your classmates. And so this discussion board, this first week, I'm just asking you to do a little bit of an intro for yourself, where you're coming from, what your hopes are in the industry, what you want to learn, just so we're all kind of in this class the next 2 months together with a little bit of kind of background info. I do have grading criteria in here. So I do give you points for discussion. Again, we'll talk about points here in a little bit. So the idea of the discussion boards, first off, there's no right or wrong answers in any of the discussion boards. I have created questions that it's not a yes, no question. I ask for your perspective on different topics that I'm pulling out from the chapters each week. Your initial discussion board post, I'll give you 5 points for that, and that's due by Thursday night. And so the idea here isn't, again, there's no yes or no, right, wrong answers. I want you to be able to answer the question and be able to give your why. Oh, I would do this because, and then you're able to explain yourself in that discussion. So doing that prior to Thursday night, 11:59, is 5 points. And then prior to Sunday, 11:59, you're going to be responding to two different classmates for your full 5 points there as well. There's a little bit more of a quality over quantity, if that makes sense. Like when you're having a conversation with somebody and you say one thing and then walk away, I mean, that's not very much of a conversation, right? There's going to be some dialogue, some back and forth. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do back and forth in the discussion board, but when you're typing a response or when you're asking questions or responding to a classmate in the discussion board, I give kind of the idea of 3 to 4 sentences, but it's really more about the quality. I'm trying to give you something to kind of lean on, like, well, how long does this have to be? I don't need a paper. This is a discussion. If you're having a discussion with someone and they talk for a paper long, you're like, oh, get me out, right? So it doesn't have to be long, but I want it to be purposeful, right? So this is the rubric that will stay consistent in your discussion boards every week. The one we're looking at right now is just the first week's discussion board. Again, just looking for some background on you and why you're taking the class and what you hope to learn. So for week one, right, we're on Wednesday right now. I can give a little bit of grace in this first week for this discussion board, right? Because it's due tomorrow night. So if you can get in there by tomorrow night, that's great. Again, week one, I can flex little. But moving forward, these discussion boards, Thursday and Sunday due dates. And for this week, week one, those are your hard deadlines for this week. In this orientation tab again, there's an assessment here, 10 questions, 10 points, not a huge time by Sunday. And then your week one discussion board, hopefully if you can by tomorrow night, Thursday night, but by Sunday for sure. And I have chapters 1 and chapters 2. Again, we'll look at the schedule. But this is your reading and your chapter quizzes of chapter 1 and chapter 2. See the note here, chapter quizzes 1 and 2. This is completed in the GRL system, that book that we just looked at the website. I also will give you lecture videos. And so in my lecture videos, again, you're learning, especially in principles, law too, you're learning about these foundational pieces of real estate, right? Um, but like principles, especially, it's the intro class in some sense. So there's like a chapter on finance. Well, we have a whole nother class on finance. There's a chapter on property management. We have a whole nother class on property management, on appraisal, on escrow. Like these are big areas of learning, right? And we're just getting one chapter. So in these lecture videos that I have here, I'm taking out kind of the high points of those chapters and what I feel are maybe the most practical or purposeful details out of those chapters. Um, Most of you taking these classes, you want to sit for the exam at some point. And so I don't want you to try to memorize definitions. Um, for these individual classes in the quizzes and the final exam, you're going to have to know that information. But I don't want you to be in a place where you're reading this stuff feeling like, oh, I have to memorize this because it's going to help me pass the state exam in 6 months. That's not necessarily true. Because all of this information that you're learning, this foundational information, the pebbles in the foundation of this industry, all of that isn't necessarily needed at the state. A little plug, if you're going to be taking your state exam at some point, I do suggest students take some sort of crash course. So when you take your principles, your practice, your elective class, which can be a number of classes, you send off your application, now digital, to the state of California Department of Real Estate. Then enter in the crash course, which doesn't give you answers to the state questions, but it helps prepare you for that state exam experience. And then also gives you some study tools on prepping for that test. We do have a 1 unit, if you haven't seen it yet, a 1 unit crash course, a real estate exam prep course at IVC. It's RE 250. And then there's a number of private schools or people that kind of sell that stuff as well online. But it being 1 unit at IVC, if it works out timing wise for you, we offer it once every semester. I do it once in spring at the end of the semester. I should be offering it in summer coming up, and then also at the end of fall. So at least once a semester, you can hop in there. And 1 unit, I think it's less than $50 right now. I think the state fee, so it's pretty reasonable as far as the cost goes. It's a 2 week class. But if you don't take it with me, that's fine too. Make sure you prep somehow for that before the state. But that's kind of it. And so we look at that weekly schedule and it's pretty consistent here, right? Week 2, I've got some videos for you. Here's your discussion board. Here's your chapter work, chapter quizzes. Week 3, lecture videos, discussion board, chapter quizzes. In week 3, I throw in a little bit of extra. I call it an exercise. I think of it as a way to get your hands dirty a little bit. You're learning about the theory, you're learning about these definitions, the concepts. The exercise is a very simplified, I give you step by step directions on like a real world application piece to this theory that we're learning. They're not hard, they take a little bit of time, but they're not meant to be hard. Week 4. We're seeing consistent 2 chapters a week, right? Lecture videos, discussion board, chapter quizzes. So hopefully, again, with this consistency, here's another exercise. I spread them out kind of towards the end of the class, but this consistency hopefully will help keep you on track for your requirements in the class.
I just have a question about the quizzes.
Yep.
So for the quizzes, are those the quizzes at the end of the chapter, or is there a separate section on the GRL website for the quizzes?
I'm sorry. Okay, let me. I had to kind of refresh my memory real quick. So the GRL system gives you a page of information, and then it gives you some questions at the bottom of each page. I think it calls it a knowledge check. And so the idea of that is that when you're reading, it's kind of a little bit of interactive. It's not just reading a bunch of stuff on a page. So those knowledge checks, they're not required, and there's no points for those. So when you read page questions, page questions, page questions, and you're going through that chapter, at the end of chapter 1, you'll see a chapter 1 quiz. And it will state on there, this is graded. Those quizzes, you do have multiple attempts to take them. And so we'll talk about points in just a minute here. But those chapters, you'll see them at the end. Just note, right? It's different than the page quiz knowledge check. It's the chapter quiz at the end of the chapter. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the graded quizzes are at the very end of the chapter.
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I clicked on something here. Let me talk to Tom.
I have a question. Are you reviewing real estate law? Because that view wasn't mentioned.
Yes. So if you didn't catch this, maybe you came in a little bit late. Both classes, I'm teaching 2 classes right now at the same time, real estate principles and legal aspects of real estate or real estate law. The content of those 2 classes are different, but what we're seeing on screen is almost identical as far as layout goes. And so although we were seeing a different class than you're in right now, the content, the layout will look almost identical.
Okay.
So I've created kind of like my system that works for me, and I've seen work for my students, and have adjusted over the years. And I feel like I've got the winning setup now. So I use that same platform, that same setup for all the classes that I teach, at least.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so just to flip it up, so we just looked at the Canvas page for principles. So what I'll do is actually I'll pull up the syllabus for legal aspects just to kind of flip it a little bit. But again, if you pull up the other syllabus, like it's going to look almost identical there. So again, the content is different, but the setup and the aesthetic is almost identical. So I'll pull that up here, and then I'll share screen again. And we're actually going to start on the syllabus. And if you didn't catch that, you will be able to pull this up yourself if you want to review it on your own on that home page in Canvas. There's a link there. Sorry, my menu got switched up there for a second. Okay, not that page. That page. There we go. All right, so here's the last page of the syllabus. Now you saw in Canvas, there was a whole list of every assignment over 8 weeks. As a student, this is my page. This is my jam. I'm getting on a 1 page, like here's everything I got to do. So you'll see week 1, right? We just looked at these in that modules tab in Canvas, but this gives us an overview of what chapters we're covering each week. and it gives you the assignments that are due in those weeks. So again, you can save this or print it out or do whatever you want with it, or never look at it again. You can just follow the modules in the Canvas schedule as well. I work really hard when I teach online classes to build out the Canvas shell as perfectly as possible, so that everything is in there up front and scheduled already. So when you log into Canvas, you can see pretty much, unless I miss something, you can see every date, every assignment it's already due in there. Hopefully that alleviates any confusion moving forward for the next 8 weeks together. But here it is, at least in a one sheet, if you prefer to see it this way as well. Note the points. I want to talk a little bit about these. So I gave you 3 goals today, to give you some information about me, kind of where I'm coming from, the perspective, the purpose behind these classes, the program for me. Um, I showed you Canvas and kind of what's expected of you, right? So we got to see the modules tab and all the assignments and the discussion boards, and we got to look at those a little bit, a little bit of the grading there. Third, my goal for you tonight is to have a clear expectation and to help you reach your goals. So if your goal again is to get an A in this class, I'm going to show you right now exactly how to do that. I'll clarify too. You'll see I have highlights on here, like, I don't take late work, or like you'll see some things as we go through here. I'm giving you a very clear expectation up front of what's due, when it's due, how to score the points on it. I don't give you points in this class. I just want to be clear on that. I've also, between real estate, and I teach business as well, but I've tried to build my classes around kind of that standard of business. And a lot of business is, if you're showing up and you're getting your work done every day, like, you're going to keep getting a paycheck, likely, right? Um, you're going to probably try a little bit harder, right? If you want to get that promotion or you want to get an A, right? You're going to figure out, okay, what do I have to do? But I want to show you exactly, like, showing up, getting your stuff done is a big part of consistency in business, and can lead to success too. So the chapter quizzes, again, these are in that GRL system. There's 15 chapters. I'm giving you 10 points each. You can take them over and over again through the whole 8 weeks together. So if your goal is to get an A in here, this is one. Again, it can take time, right? But this is one way that you can max out your points in this area. That's 33% of your grade in the class. Again, showing up, getting your stuff done, 33% of your grade right there. The discussion boards. Now, there's some timelines on these, right? Thursday and Sunday for your responses, but we have them every week. Again, there's some time commitment, but you have control over these points, especially in the first week. I actually usually will stay up past the deadline, past midnight, and I usually grade these discussion boards like, by 1 or 2 in the morning. And the reason I do that is so that when you wake up on Monday of week 2, and you're like, "Oh, what happened? I thought I did an awesome discussion board. Why did I only get 7 points? I need an A in this class." I want you to be able to see and be able to correct any issues that are there right from the get go, right? So again, discussion boards. There's some time and effort put into place here. I'm asking you to form an opinion about a question that I'm asking you, and to back up your perspective. But you can totally control, these points and getting these points. You can see that percentage there. The exercises, again, there's 4 of those spread out through the class. Starting in week 3, I want to make sure that you kind of get the pattern down and you get moving in the class and getting your stuff together. So starting week 3, we have a couple exercises. Those are 20 points each. Again, not meant to be hard. I give you pretty clear kind of step-by-step directions on what to do in those. That, attaining those points is on you. For most people, the exam, it can be a hang up. For most people, I would say most students come into class and they're like, "Oh, I'm not a great test taker," or "I get test anxiety," or, I have whatever those challenges are, right? And I get it. At the end of the day, these classes are built to prepare you for the state exam, right? And that state exam is 150 questions over a 3-hour window of time. And you're sitting at a computer screen taking those questions, and there's people like walking around watching you. It's super uncomfortable. It's totally weird. There's nobody going to be watching you on your exam here. But the idea is like, I'm prepping you to take the state exam, right? So you need to start getting into this rhythm and getting into these experiences, so it doesn't just totally throw you off at the state. So this is a pretty big chunk, right? 150 points of your grade is on this final exam. But you can see here, if you show up and get your stuff done, quizzes every week, discussion boards every week, exercises, you don't have to get an A on this final exam to get an A in the class. So I'm hoping you're seeing here that there's like a diversity of points here, right? In the different ways you can earn these points. And if you struggle with tests, I hope this you can take a little bit of a breath of just a little relief right there. Like you don't have to get an A on this final to get an A in the class. But you do have to show up and earn your points, right? So, and I'll just be clear here. These are the points that you have the ability to earn. Again, I'm not giving you a grade. I'm not giving you points, just like I would never take away points from somebody. Like I don't pick students and go, oh, I'm going to give you some extra points. I don't think that's fair. And so I set these very clear expectations up front. You'll see a little note here. Just about every single semester, I have a student that's like, no, I'm going to do a pass, no pass. And if maybe you don't care about your grades, maybe you're not a college student, maybe you're sitting in the class, you're 70 and you're like, I don't care if I get a C or an A, it doesn't matter to me. I would say in my experience, it has never benefited a student, at least that I've seen, for you to use a pass, no pass. And if I have to, I feel like it's worth it to at least explain this really quick. If you get a 60% in this class, like I did at OCC 20 some years ago, if you get a D, a letter grade D, the Department of Real Estate will accept that on your transcripts as a check, principles done. They don't care what your grade is. They just want to see that you did it. If you select pass, no pass, oh, I'm sorry, before I go there. If you get a 60 and you get a D, the DRE will take it. If you get a 60, you get a D, IVC does not consider that passing. But if you don't care about your grade anyway, then it doesn't matter anyway. If you really don't care about your grade and you're like, I want to do a pass, no pass, at the end of the semester, I have to checkbox the boxes that they give me to checkbox. And if you select pass, no pass, and you get a 60, a 69%, I have to mark no pass, which means you don't get passing at IVC and you don't get DRE credit. So I have had students that get a D, but I have to mark no pass. And so they don't get the DRE credit for that class. I hope we don't have to deal with that. I hope the best for you and you're all going to get A's. That's great. But if it's out there and this comes up, it's my personal perspective that the pass no pass doesn't help you. I've said my piece. In this next little section, I kind of give you a brief description of the different assignments that we're doing. The final exam, I didn't mention it yet, but I stated here, there's 100 questions, although I'm giving you 150 points for it. There's 100 questions. It is timed, just like the state test is timed. And I kind of let you get away with, and there's not like really a minimum score. I say it requires a passing score of 60. So the state exam requires you to pass with 70%. I say 60 in this class or in these two classes, right? Whether you're in legal aspects or principles. But here's where my 60 comes from. If you score less than a 60 on that attempt, that first time, I actually give you a second attempt on the final exam. So I don't take late work. I don't give points away, right? But I'm hoping you're seeing here that you have a lot of flexibility. You've got weekly timelines to get stuff done. You've got assignments that are based on your work and your time. I'm giving you a second chance at a final if you don't pass the first final exam. I will mention though, this is a separate test. There's two tests here. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to take this one real fast and then memorize the answers and then I'm going to take it again. It's a whole different set of questions. The Department of Real Estate requires us to do that. We have to have two separate finals in these classes available. So we can't duplicate content that way. But I'm hoping you see here that you have a lot of opportunity in this class to do well. I hope that's coming across. The quizzes, again, we've talked about this. And again, I don't have a set minimum. Originally, I set up these minimum scores. I call them minimums because by my math, if you get less than these minimums, then you don't pass. So it's a little bit of loose math without going into all that stuff. But I kind of put this in there just as a little bit of a standard. If you get a 60 on the quizzes, again, you can take them over and over again. So if you want to get a good grade in here, that's a great opportunity for you. You're working full time and part time and kids at home and you got grocery shopping to do. It does not offend me at all if you can't get an A in this class or don't get an A in this class. I'm here to support you. I want to help you get to where you want to go, right? So again, that's where I'm building this stuff out of. The exercises, again, I've described these already. Discussion boards, we've talked about that extensively already. My note about late work. Okay. If you like get hospitalized, I don't need to see your like medical records or anything, but usually if you're in the hospital, the doctor will give you a note that says, Rick was out sick, was unable to attend school for these 3 days or something. If something urgent, crazy happens, let me know. I want to help and support you. But just for the most part, I've seen students that try to do makeup work or try to get extra credit or something like that. And then they end up just always looking backwards and trying to catch up for stuff that they haven't done, that they never get the now stuff done. So I've tried to just kind of set this up with the standard going in at the front. Again, if you're looking at your principles syllabus, if you're in principles with me, pretty much outside of that last page with the content, all this stuff is the same. Here's the grading setup, the letter grading at IVC. So this is not me, but it does give you a pretty clear picture. And I love the fact that we don't do pluses and minuses in letter grades, but this shows up, right? If you earn at the end of these 8 weeks, if your total says 89%, you earned an 89%, you can see what that letter grade is, right? Oh, Rick, I really need an A for this class. Like, that's on you. You can earn an A in this class. I'm not giving anything to you. Grading policy, syllabus revision. So there's some kind of boilerplate stuff in here too, but oh, this section. I love this section. And it's not even like all of the stuff that we have at IVC. You're now a student at IVC, you're in this class. We try pretty hard to take care of our people. There's a lot of services, a lot of resources available to you. If you need help, if you're having challenges with your learning, there's a lot of phone numbers and links. If something comes up, again, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope that after this, conversation and taking this time together, that oh yeah, like hopefully you can help me out. I totally would love to help you if you're having challenges. If you don't want to come to me, there's a bunch of links and phone numbers and stuff here, and then also the IVC website. They're pretty good at updating everything that's going on there. There's a lot of stuff. I had a student last semester that was like, oh, I'm living in my car right now. I don't have dinner. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like here, we have a food bank on campus at IVC. We have emergency kind of like vouchers for housing. The vet center is amazing. I think this office may have just recently changed their name, but if you're having learning challenges, they can chat with you about different accommodations that might help you out. Ton of stuff. Please reach out if you need help. We want to see you succeed. I kind of mentioned this already briefly when I showed you my email address, but this is going to be the quickest way to get me is by email. Again, if you want to meet in person, excuse me. If you want to meet in person, please do come to office hours. Send me an email. Hey, can you chat at Wednesday at 4 p.m. Let me know. A couple links. Instructure.com, IVC. This is the Canvas website. We've looked at that. Again, modules tab, that left simple menu, modules tab. The GRL, the book that we're actually using is actually a Dearborn published book. I really like this line of real estate books because they're the most professional that I've seen out of all the different real estate books and the most consistent. They've been around for a long time and they offer a lot of the different content areas. A lot of the other publishers don't do that. But the link that we're using, again, we saw it already, but this GRL content page is where you're going to be getting the virtual version of that textbook. And here's some tech support from you. Gosh, it might have been yesterday. This link still works, but I have some added tech support I'm going to throw in here, or I'll probably put it into Canvas so you can access it more easily. I have very few students that have issues with this website, but just in case something comes up, oh, I was doing this thing and it crashed or whatever happens, I'll give you some support for them too, how to reach out. Getting through it. We got like 10 more minutes or left done. Wow, what did I just say? 10 more minutes or less, and we're done. That's what I meant to say. Academic honesty, at the end of the day, you're doing your own work in here. Here's some pictures of the books. Again, the GRL access being required. The electronic textbook, they have like a flat version that you can buy, like read on a tablet type of thing, but it's not interactive like GRL. Optional. Hard copy, of course, optional if you want to hold something in your hands. Oh, this is legal aspects. Yeah. I think Principles is on its like 12th edition or something right now. But GRL, you'll see it all. Here's some links to, talking about support and tools. Again, as an IDC student, you have access to some tools online. Microsoft Office apps are available to you if you don't have them already. I feel like they're pretty widely available now, but for this class, maybe Word is going to be helpful for you. I would say if there's one out of all of them, it might be Word. You can use Canvas. I've had students say that they've completed the whole class on their phone. I've tried to build the system so that you can do that if that's the tech that you have. I think for me personally, that'd be challenging, right? Like zooming and typing and that kind of stuff. But if you have to, if that's what you have, Canvas does allow for you to actually input text as well. It's a little bit harder to read, but like if you're having trouble with Word or getting something on a computer screen, you can copy paste text in as well. Quick story on dropping. I was teaching real estate at OCC, and I'm going into my master's program. And Cal State Fullerton says, "Hey, why do you have an F on your transcripts in welding?" And I was like, "What?" Oh man. 8 years before that, I was going to go take a welding class because I wanted to learn. My wife knew how to weld, but I wanted to learn how to weld too. And so I went and took class, started, sticking metal together, and got super busy and stopped showing up. And sure enough, there goes the F on my transcript. I had assumed that if I stopped showing up, that the teacher was going to drop me. In my classes, I will, after this first week, I will not drop you. I only see that as a future opportunity for you. If you get behind, you get stuck, and then you come back in a couple weeks and you're like, no, I can do it. Let's chat, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to get the most points you can at that point. But I won't drop you. So if you're like going, oh, I just can't do it, you're going to walk away and stop doing everything, please drop yourself. Because it kills me to have to write F, at the end of the semester for that. I do have some of those dates for reference on that last page on the calendar where you see the weeks. I do have some dates, and I have them on the top of this page too. I'll show you in a sec. But just know that again, when you're here in week 1, and if you're going to stop showing up, like I'm not going to do it. You got to do it. You have to pull the rep cord. I'm not going to push you out of the plane. Here's some just general information on the class itself. Overview. There's some repetitiveness in here, but I want to make sure you guys see it. And here's just some general information about the class here. And again, my contact info, office hour times available for you. Here are those dates I mentioned about dropping. So to get a full refund, it's like in a couple days on the 17th, the end of this week. Dropping without a W with a W. Again, these are references. I usually am right on these, but do please confirm if you're like, oh, I need to drop. Like check my site is the system that we have that you would do that in. I haven't seen one chat question pop up. Not one. That's crazy. I know I was just like super clear, right? I would love to see any questions pop up in the chat while we're still recording. If you want to have a conversation, I'll stop recording in like 2 minutes. And then that leaves us a couple extra minutes to chat about anything. Oh, you're so supportive. Thank you for that encouragement. Doing a great job. Awesome. Especially tonight, setting off week 1. Like I want to be super clear. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing at least get you back full screen here. I'll still look for any chats for questions. There it is. All right. Well, I'm glad you're here. Again, do I regret not welding? sometimes I wish like, oh, it would be kind of cool to know that a little bit. I haven't had a ton of opportunity. I've done a lot more like maybe more fine like woodwork and that kind of stuff. So not knowing how to weld has not set me back, fortunately. Where do we pull up the syllabus for principles? It will be again that link looks like it's not working for some reason, but I'll right after this I'll go in and update that syllabus for principles on the home page of Canvas is where that will be. Great question. Ooh, how come on the calendar it doesn't cross out the GRL assignment if you have already logged in? Oh yeah. So the GRL is currently, I haven't found a magic way to connect GRL and Canvas so that they talk to each other. So with the points in GRL that you're doing on the quizzes, you can see those in GRL. There's a grade book in GRL and you can see, oh yeah, chapter 2 I got 9 points. You can see that. And I can see it too, but it doesn't come into Canvas automatically. And so because of that, just because the number of students and the number of assignments, I move those points over into Canvas at the end of the semester. But at any point during the semester, you can click in and you can see your points in Canvas, you can see your points in GRL. They just won't be in the same place, unfortunately. At least right now. Maybe I can work on that this semester. It's supposed to do it, but it hasn't worked for me in the past. So those assignments as well, you'll notice on the grade book in Canvas, I have the GRL quizzes at the end, and it's 150 points. So you'll see them in the modules. You'll see GRL chapters 1 and 2 quizzes. You'll see the note in the module, but you actually won't see it on your grade book because I'm not giving you the individual points in Canvas for each individual quiz. I hope that makes sense. Cool, cool. And that login, particularly that GRL login, I do use that for myself as kind of a note, but you'll notice that it's actually 0 points. That one does show up on the grade book because I want you to see like, oh, there's an assignment due. Sometimes I throw in a little point there. Good, good, good. Can I purchase access code at the bookstore? Yeah, if you have vouchers, you have credit at the bookstore, you should be able to buy this access. Please do visit them. And let me know if that works out too. I mentioned at one point we have some transition going on with an old vendor that's been at IBC for years. And now it's coming to a new vendor, which is I think is actually Barnes and Noble. As a corporation, they run bookstores at college campuses. And so I'm sure they'll be awesome. But I don't know what they have on hand at this snapshot moment. But please do try. You should be able to get an access code there. I entered the introduce yourself assignment and can't see it or comment on other people. That sounds like a little bit of a tech issue. I will research that a little bit and reach out to you. But when you do introduce yourself, make sure you're hitting submit after you type your stuff, and then you should be able to see it. And I also have the system set up so that you have to post first. I didn't mention this. You have to post your initial post before you see everybody else. Right? So like when you go in there to answer the question, you're not reading everybody else's responses. Like I want you to kind of come up with your own unique response and then you see everybody else. So I'm just making a quick note here to research that, Dave. I could not find it at IBC online. Was that the book access? Yeah, yeah. Let me follow up with you on that too. Okay. I see that with in regards to the access code and stuff for the book. I'll follow up on that. If anybody does have book vouchers that you have or credit at the bookstore to use to buy this access, if you could send me a quick email just to let me know, and that way I can make sure to follow up and advocate for you. Make sure you get what you need. I have heard that Chrome is more consistent for Canvas, especially. You would think that it should work on pretty much anything these days, right? But if you're going to pick one, I would say Chrome is probably the most consistent. Awesome. I'm going to end the recording, and then if you have any other questions, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes here to chat. Again, thank you for being here. Thanks for being at IBC Real Estate, and hope to. You're very welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope this is just the launching pad for you, right? To head off into whatever you want to do with the rest of your life. I'll talk to you soon.